was a sight for my soul.
Hello and welcome. So, you want to get your ADR license, do you? Well, you're going to need to jump through a few little hoops before you can get it. These hoops mainly revolve around doing a 3 to 5 day course depending on what you want to do. It does vary, but it's essentially broken down into 3 basic parts. First you've got core, then you've got packages, and that's what most people do and then stop there. But if you're going on to other things, you then do the third part, which is tankers. So the first part, core, it's, as its name suggests, it's the core, it's the foundation, it's what everything else is built upon. And it's a 1.5 day course. It's fairly simple, not too much involved. It covers the basic bits really, something like classes overview of each class, 1 through to 9, but you don't normally do all of them. Particularly 1 and 7 you don't do. Those are quite sort of niche things that require their own specialist course. So most places tend to do just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 and 9. It covers the paperwork that's involved and all the working practices around, because obviously it's dangerous goods. You've got to have various extra safety precautions in place when you're handling dangerous stuff. It also covers what each party's legal obligations are, whether like you're the consigner, the company, the driver, or the consignee, what you have to do at each stage and who does what. And then there's like the common sense stuff like health and safety at work and all those bits and bobs. And then obviously the extra rules and regulations that you have to take on board, because there's pretty much about as many rules and regulations regarding ADR as there is just truck driving in general. So there's a lot of information to take in over the course of the next few days on this course. You'll also cover some of the extra equipment that you've got to carry, like an ADR bag, they call it, which is a bag that contains various bits of safety equipment like masks, shovels, drain covers, gloves and any other bits and bobs that you need for your course of work. And then other obvious bits like the dangers involved with some of the chemicals, and some very basic first aid training like how to do CPR and whatnot and stuff like that. Nothing too fancy really. And that is core. It's about 1.5 days and it counts as a day and a half's worth of CPC that you can claim back as well. So once you've done the core, you then move on to the next stage, which is packages. Packages is basically anything that isn't a tanker really, like IBC containers, small cardboard boxes, little tubs of stuff, anything like that, you name it, that's a package. So you start off covering limited quantities and what the definitions of that is, and sort of the workarounds that most companies tend to use so that you don't technically have to use an ADR license but can still carry dangerous goods, which is, you'll be surprised the amount of firms that actually do that. You'll also cover packaging groups and transport categories, which basically tell you the dangers involved and how dangerous this substance is, even within what class it is, because some, say for instance, some class 3 stuff is more dangerous than others. You'll also cover the types of packaging that are approved for use and UN numbers that define these packages and the chemicals and bits and bobs that you're going to be using as well. So every different dangerous good has its own unique 4-digit UN number for when you're transporting goods. That needs to be displayed somewhere on the package or tanker if you're using a tanker. And the thresholds that govern each chemical as well, because some chemicals you can have like 20 litres before it's classed as dangerous goods, and some like more dangerous ones you only carry something like 5 litres before you come under ADR rules as well. You'll then move on to the individual classes. So class 2 gases, class 3 liquids, 4 solids, 5 oxidizers, 6 toxics, 8 corrosives and 9 miscellaneous. And within each of those groups you'll cover specific dangers for each chemical type, the safety precautions you have to take for each type, specific regulations for each type, like with some of the flammable solids there's like temperature controlled, and some of the emergency stuff you have to do with each of the temperatures, like There's a control temperature that you have to transport at, an emergency temperature, like if your fridge fails or something. Once the temperature gets to that, that's where you have to call the emergency services, and then there's a temperature at which the material will self-ignite and begin to burn and torch the whole place down. You'll also cover some of the crossover dangers, in particular the danger triangles 3, 6 and 8. So basically whichever one you're carrying, say class 3, some of the secondary dangers will also be 8 and 6, or corrosives and toxics, and vice versa for any of the others, so 6, 3 and 8, 8, 3 and 6, and that's sort of unique to those three. So the packages course, again, that's a day-and-a-half course. So once again you can claim a day-and-a-half of CPC, so 3 potentially is the maximum you can claim for this course, but it is up to you. You can claim none, you can claim 1, 2, 3. I'm not sure if it covers every school, but the one that I done it at, you had to pay £25 extra for every day of CPC that you wanted to claim, so 25, 50, 75 if you wanted to claim all 3. So day 4 begins. It's nothing but exams. So you start off with the core exam. It's 25 questions and 40 minutes is the length of the test. At the time of recording this video, it may change in the future, I don't know. Could be less, could be more, who knows. After that one you do packages, which is 15 questions, 25 minutes you've got to answer that. After that it's common characteristics, that's 20 questions and you've got 30 minutes to answer that. So after this you've got classes. Group A, that covers 2, 3, 6 and 8, has 36 questions and you get 55 minutes to answer them all. So that's the biggest single test you will do in the entire ADR course. Then you have classes Group B, 4, 5 and 9, and that's 24 questions over 40 minutes. So that's it, you've got your ADR license. You can carry any amount of quantities in packages only. You can't carry bulk liquid stuff apart from maybe IBCs. So if you want to carry anything in a tanker, you'll need to stay on and do an extra course for tankers. So tankers is a 1-day course. It's fairly quick and simple. It's just specific stuff relating to tankers. There's nothing too special about it. You'll cover fairly obvious stuff like the types of tanks available, refrigerated ones, vacuum ones, pressure ones, bulk, multi-compartment ones, all fairly simple stuff that you probably know anyway. Some of the specific safety features relating to tanks, cut-offs, blowout valves and things like that. Some of the dangers associated with loading and unloading, sort of like blowing and rupturing the tank or collapsing it if it's under vacuum when you're unloading. How to avoid the dangers, obviously, like vents and pressure reliefs and stuff. You'll also cover plating required, placards and stuff, like the 2 at the front and then the 1 at the rear with all the specific numbers, like the emergency action code, the UN number, and then class thing that should be displayed, and any secondaries that need to be displayed along with the original. So it's a fairly quick and simple one. You breeze through it in about half a day, and then the second half after that is the test itself. Again, not too difficult, 20 questions, 30 minutes, bish bash bosh, done. You can now carry dangerous goods in bulk in a tanker as well. So once you get issued your card, it'll look like that. It'll have all your details in the middle, which I've covered up at the moment. You've also got obviously the title, the country you're from, your picture, and a little hologram there just to make sure it is yours. This is quite a fancy card. I saw a guy's the other days from about 5 years ago, and it was just a laminated bit of paper, so this is quite a fancy card now to go with your myriad of others. And on the back it'll tell you all the classes that you can do. I've got tanks qualification and then all the classes that I can carry. As you can see, there's a gap at the top for class 1 and a gap for class 7 because I didn't do those. And then other than tanks, that's the packages. So again, all of the groups that I can carry. Again, 1 and 7 are missing. And then you've got all the subtypes, so 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 5.1, 5.2, 6.1, 6.2. Flammable solids, spontaneously combustible and dangerous when wet, etc. Stuff like that. It is possible to do just the individual groups, but it's kind of pointless, so you tend to get everything thrown in at once. So either packages or tankers, or packages and tankers. You never normally do tankers on their own. Give you an overview. core, that's an essential part you do. Packages, that's the one that pretty much everyone does. And then if you want, you can do tankers as well. You don't have to, it's an option. I just did it out of interest. I mean, I have no need for an ADR license at the moment. I just did it out of interest, as something to do. Also finish off my CPC, because as you know, I've already said in a previous video what a joke that CPC is, especially when it's done by a third-party group. So if I'm going to do CPC, I'm going to at least want to get something out of it at the end. So that's kind of why I did this. And it also lets me do another video, of course, obviously. As for price, it's quite expensive. It's a lot more than if you just done the 3 basic CPC. It probably cost you about 150 quid or so. Mine in total with tankers was just a little bit over £600. Inevitably it will go up with time, obviously. It lasts for 5 years, pretty much like everything else. Your card, digicard, CPC, and driving licenses as well now, I think, as well. And once you've got your ADR, it's fairly simple. You do a refresher course after 5 years. You can do it before the 5 years, but it resets your start date, unlike the CPC, which maintains the same one. This resets it, so if you have to wait at least 4 years before you can reset it. Most places will say leave it till about 5 weeks or so, maybe a little bit longer, before you reset your course. And then once you've done that, it's a refresher course, I think about 3 days, which is essentially the same thing. You go over the core and the packages again, and tankers if you need to. I'm not quite sure, obviously. I haven't done it, I'm a newbie, so if I do it again, I'll let you know in 5 years time. But yeah, that is essentially ADR. It's quick, simple. Unlike CPC, you can fail it. It's not really that difficult. The questions themselves are super duper easy. If you've done a theory test or a hazard test or the CPC theory test in the last 10-15 years, possibly before that, you'll be familiar with the questions. You get the question, it's 4 choice multiple answer. The 2 of them are usually stupid answers, 2 of them are plausible, and then it's fairly easy to work out the correct one. So if you do fail, I'd be surprised, because if you can pass the theory test, you'll be able to pass an ADR test. But other than that, that is how you get your ADR license. Fairly simple, mostly classroom work. There is a lot of information to take in. You can fail it, as I've just said, but other than that, it's fairly easy, really. So if you fancy having a go, good luck, and until next time, see you then.